fue un sueño que empezó hace 100 años y que es muy difícil de contar dando números y contando eventos y hablando de edificios. El Talmud dice: el que salva una vida es como si salva toda la humanidad. Y el trabajo nuestro en Adasa simplemente es el salvar vidas todos los días, el salvar miles de vidas todos los días. Pero ¿cómo se cuenta esa historia? Traer estadísticas, números que vean cuánta gente pasa por la sala de Adasa, cuántas víctimas de terrorismo pasan por la sala de operación. Yo creo que revertimos la frase del Talmud para poder contar la historia, de la humanidad al individuo.
My romance with Adasa started the 11th of June 2002 when I was 13. They took us from school to a field trip to help some Jewish farmers to pick cherries. And at the beginning of the day, the bus went all the way into the field, and at the end of the day, waited for us outside. So we didn't know that the night before, terrorists came and planted a mine just at the entrance, at the gate. So the farmer will come in the morning, try to open the gate, and he will die. And we had to walk back. So when I arrived to the gate, I stepped on the mine, and you explode. I still remember that, my legs blowing up, the stones coming down, and pieces of rocks, and the smell of a burning flesh and a gunpowder and everything. And they rushed me right away to Adasa. And now I will want to show you a little bit of my experience of Adasa. This is the article of the newspaper the day after. My sister kept all the newspaper to show me after that what happened. And you can see me lying on the ground, still lying on the ground, waiting for the paramedics to come and take me to the hospital. You can see the hole, the ground, just at the entrance where it was exploded. And as I said, I remember almost like it was today what happened to me. And it's quite difficult. This is the first time that I met the other two kids where also got wounded. I got wounded all over my body. It came with open wounds in my legs, at my stomach, at my hands, at my head. And I came with 2 dead legs. And the surgeons, the orthopedics, decided that I'm too young to lose both of my legs. And they kept them even though they were dead for a couple of days. And I don't know what they did, but they managed to revive them. Because I couldn't eat for so long because I got a very difficult injury at the stomach. They had to put a tube at my nose straight to the stomach to suck all the fluids of the stomach. This is the first time that I moved from the bed to the chair. It took me almost 2 months. The first few times, because when you're lying lying down a long time, the blood circulation is in a certain way, and even if you moved in 1 degree, you're feeling that all the flow of the blood is going down. And every time they wanted to take me out and put me to the chair, I felt like all the wounds are open and the bloods are coming out, and they had to move me back, open the bandages, and do it all over again. I had to replace the bandages 3 times a day. Each leg took almost an hour and a half, so it was a very long procedure. It was so painful that they had to sedate me every time, and they didn't allow me to see the bottom part of my legs. I never saw it, only once, because they used to put a curtain between me and the legs. And one time he fell, and I saw 2 shock of like a coal, black with full of holes, and I just faded away for 2 minutes, and then they decided to sedate me every time. This is it's myself and the other boy who also got wounded with me. It's just at the entrance of the old operation room. It was a very small, tiny room, And those are two soccer players. Until today I don't know who are they. They came to visit me, and they brought us the flag and the ball, and I don't know who are they. But,
I know.
Oh, great. So you can tell me. But they didn't. The reporter who came to wrote about it wrote at the paper that we met our gods. I don't know who is it. This is the first time that I spoke to my uncle. He was in the army, and I couldn't see him for a few months. And the only time I could speak to him is through the phone. And still I couldn't eat, and nothing. Because I got injured at the head, I couldn't see in one eye. And they didn't know why, because they made a CT and an MRI, and they didn't know why. But one of the professors in Hadassah, he managed to fix it. I don't know why he did, but he did something, and he managed to bring my eyes again. This is the chief rabbi of Israel. He used to be the chief rabbi of Israel. It's Arav Lau, and he came to put me at tefillin. The first time that I put tefillin after I got wounded, I couldn't do it because I had an injury. I had the terrorists planted in the mine. They planted marbles and screws and nails, so the injury will be much more bad. So I couldn't do it, and the first time that I did it with him. This is a very good friend of mine. I couldn't see my friends because we've been to schools and everything. So we took a camera and moved where I lived, and each friend say a little small thing to encourage me. And it was for me it was amazing to see, feel like I'm with them again, because I couldn't see them for a very long time. Some of them couldn't see me because one time they came and they faded away, so they didn't allow them to come anymore. And in some points they didn't allow any people to come near to me because I had a very high fever and a lot of how do you say viruses. This is one of the pictures after they sedated me. I couldn't do it when I was awake, so 3 times a day for almost 2-3 hours a day I was asleep. And this is the only time that they could make sure that they treat me, replace all the bandages, because when they tried to do it when I was awake, it couldn't possible. You have to remember I got wounded in 2002, so the technology wasn't so advanced like today, so they have to do take gas, do it like a ball, suck it in antibacterial, material, and then stuck it into the wounds until they could skin graft over it. This is the first time they took me to the physiotherapy. What's unique in Hadassah that they started the physiotherapy while you're in the regular departments. They found out if you're waiting for the release, the muscles are dropped, and it's much harder to do it all over again. So they had to force me. And one time, one of the first physiotherapists wrote that the documents that I'm fighting, cursing, and refuse to cooperate. But you still see me walking, because in one ear there is a Hadassah, staff, the doctors and all the nurses. The other ear is the family and friends, and they both pull you forward. Never let you go even one step back. I told you that I couldn't eat, so what you see here is a machine that used to bring nutrition straight to the main artery. And after a week they took it away, and they found that they have a very aggressive virus. So they couldn't put it again. And because I had to change the IV every day, one time I just shaved both of my hands, because wherever they took the bandage and everything, it's like doing a wax. So it was horrible. So I just took razors and shaved both of my hands. So a little bit easier. This is the first time they allow me to eat and drink. minute after the photo was taken, I threw up and they put the tube again. Sometimes I used to throw up in the middle of the night, and my big brother Ariel, that used to be with me every night, even though he was only in 10th grade, used to come every night, sleep next to me. At the morning at 6 a.m. wake up and then go to school every day like that. And every time I used to throw up, sometimes over him, I used to make him swear that he wouldn't tell the doctors, because if he would tell them, they put the tubes again and again and again. So, but he is a responsible adult, he has to do it. So it was a horrible experience. This is a photo of a German journalist that came to visit me. It was still sedated, so I don't even remember it. This is my father and mother, and my big brother Ariel, and two of my aunts. You can see that during the time that it was in the hospital, we built like a small home. You know, we bring so many things because you're staying there for so long. So it became like a first home for us. This is the day that I released from the hospital. All of those women are nurses. This is Atalia, the head nurse of the surgery department. And they used to be mothers for me, because they used to do everything with the care. To come to a 13 years old to say that you have to replace everything and, you know, do another surgery, it's very difficult, but you still have to do it. So they did everything in a way that I will feel the less pain and the less miserable than I should be. This is from that day. You see, this is the old building. It's nothing compared to the new building that there is today. In those buildings, there is, in the old buildings, there used to be 5 patients in a room. And today in Hadassah, there is something that we call the rehabilitation space. In order that to fight your own problems, you have to have your own space. And if you have 4 other peoples and 1 member of the families, it's like 8 people, other people that you have to be considered. It's much difficult. And today at the new buildings, there is only 2 beds in a room, and sometimes one bed. And people think like it's a fancy place, but it's not. For us, the patients, it's very important that you have the best way to take care of only our problems and not other people's problems. This is a friend of mine that came to visit me while I was in the rehabilitation. Unfortunately, they couldn't come a lot because they didn't allow them to come. It's it's not. At the end of the day, it's not a sympathetic place to be when you are very young. When I was 18, I decided that I wanted to join the army. And I talked to my doctors, and together we decided to do some process, a few surgeries that allow me to be away from home more than 24 hours. And even though I had to do another 3 surgeries in the army, and I had to be with my doctors again, not even once they told me, "You want to think about it again? Maybe you should choose a different profession." Never. Each one of them served in a different unit, and each one of them said to me, "You're going to serve in my unit." So, and when I joined the army, I served at the counterterrorism school. It's an army base that's teaching how to fight terrorism in a closed environment and everything, airplanes and trains. And for me, as a terror victim, one of the people who suffer from the terrorists, to be the one who help other people to prevent my situation like myself, it was a huge privilege. And it's like a small closure for me. And I served them, and I served at that base, and I trained to be a shooting instructor. And I taught the IDF soldiers and other people such as the American Rangers and all kinds of special units around the world. And this is the certificate that I finished the course of the shooting instructor. This is one of the surgeries that I had to do while I was in the army. Unfortunately, because I got wounded in a field, I have a lot of stones all over my body. And some of the surgery was you have to dig in to take them out, because if you don't do it, sometimes it's going out by themselves and then it's very, very painful. And other times you have like viruses that caused by the sharp nails and everything. And this is another surgery that I had to do while in the army. And again, it was in the old buildings. This is the article about one of the high officers in the army, Dvir Musail, that got killed, and he used to come visit me at the hospital. And he also told me that I will serve in his unit. And I managed to do it, because after I did the third surgery in my army service, I had to move to a closer base to home, because I have to do treatment every day until probably the rest of my life. And I managed to do it, to serve the news unit. So for me it was very, very important to do it. Until today I had to do more than 30 surgeries. The last one was 3 months ago. You know, whenever you go into the hospital, you get a small bracelet with the date that you came. I have so many bracelets with my birthday, the date that I got wounded. You know, I celebrated like 8 birthdays at the hospital. The first one was during the second intifada, so it was very intense. And they brought like the confetti things that, you know, blow up and then. And a minute after we did it, 10 seconds after, we had 3, you know, security guards that came over and say, what happened, what happened. Thank you. So for me, at that site, it's not a second home, it's a first home. You know, the place that you feel secure. Sometimes they used to rush me to the ER, and through the moment that I went through the gate of Hadassah, some of the symptoms were significantly dropped, because wherever in Hadassah you feel much more secure. And when they decided to release me to home after almost five and a half months, I refused at the beginning to go back home because I was afraid. I felt much more secure in Hadassah and felt much more, you know, that I have an answer for every problem that I have. And actually, when I released, I had to go back almost 5 days a week to Hadassah for treatments and checkups and everything. And sometimes the doctor used to treat me after the hours of the regular clinics, because they wanted to be with me in each moment, and they did it, you know, carefree of other patients. Because I don't know how they did it, you know, as a grown man, it seems to me like a crazy thing that the head of the department will stay with a 13, 14 years old on his, you know, private hours, not to go to his family, to help other kid that, you know, a few months before that they didn't even knew me. And it's very special. And another thing that's very special for me, that whenever I needed to do a surgery or some big treatment, and I had to do 2 of them, and they try to mix them up. If I go to do a orthopedic surgery and I had to do a neurosurgery surgery, they did it all together. So I will not be twice at the ER, at the operating room. I will not do sedated 2 times, and I will not have all the bad, you know, symptoms that you have to wake up every time. It's very difficult, because it's not like we're going back to the 100%. It's like taking 5% each time. So they want it to be, you know, less painful if they can. And sometimes they used to come with me to the room and do the test by themselves and not by the technicians, because they wanted to make sure that it will be the easiest way they can do. This is a reward that I got in the reserve unit, and today I'm serving at the reserve unit at Yehuda Brigade. It's a brigade that's responsible for all the area of Hebron and Me'arat HaMachpelah and everything. Unfortunately, for the last terror attacks, I needed to go to the army. They recruited us again, and unfortunately there was a lot of terror attacks around Hebron. So whenever I used to go to the hospital, I used to visit the people that I used to treat them, take care of them while I was in the army. So for me it's amazing. It's be the part to try to prevent it. And unfortunately, when you can't prevent things, I can share a little bit of my story, a little bit of encouragement to help them as other people did for me. This is my doctor, Professor Pikarsky. He's my head of my case, you can say. He did like 18 surgeries on me. For me, it's a very special person. What you see here is my chuppah. When I got married, he's the one who said the blessing of my chuppah. Actually, the first date that I have with the woman became my wife, Orly, was in Hadassah because I waited for appointment. The letter that I wrote to her before the Shabbat of the wedding was on a paper of Hadassah because I waited for appointment. My doctors is the one who said the blessing of my chuppah, and my kid was born in Hadassah. So for me, at the beginning Hadassah used to symbol all the bad emotion, all the bad experience that I had at the few first years. It turned out to be just the opposite. Today I'm coming there to draw my strength. If you ever been to Hadassah, you will see that it's in the middle of the valley, surrounded by mountains. But for me Hadassah is like Everest mountain. I'm climbing up, looking to the future, and deciding where I see myself at the beginning, the next day, next week, and hopefully, in the next decade. And I cannot do it by myself. I can tell my doctors where I want to see myself, but they're the one who said how we will achieve it. So it's like a cooperation for life. It's a true Catholic marriage. You cannot divorce it. This is the two other boys who got wounded with me. We all served in Hadassah. We all treated in Hadassah. We all got married. All three of us was in the army. And you can say that we all are children of Hadassah because Hadassah saved us, and three of us are children. For me, what Hadassah did is allow me to be, husband, but above all, they allowed me to be a father. For me, it's the biggest thing in my life, and that I will never achieve that without them. This is a photograph of a lot of terror victims, all of us treated in Hadassah. The first one at the right is used to be a police that got wounded in one of the terror attacks. He was very badly injured, and he's treated by my doctors. And the first time that we met, he came to a surgery that Professor Pikarsky did, and he used to be at the bed next to me. And one time they came, I don't know which organization came to bring us, some sort of gifts to encourage us, and he was sleeping, and he gave them a Game Boy because they thought he was a young kid. The other two next to him, there are two people who got wounded at next to Hebron when there was a big terror attack in 2002, where 13 dead, and those are the only two who survived. It's called the Bravery Alley. 13 soldiers and the head of the unit that I have served in, they all got killed, and the only two have survived. Actually, we all been to the same intensive care unit, we all been to the treatment by the same doctors, and today we even go to the rehabilitation together. We used to bring a car to go through every house to pick us up, and became like a small group of friends. We had our own schedules, our own language, you can say, because it's very difficult to explain people that didn't, didn't go through what you did. And when you have a common language with other people, it's much more easier. And in Hadassah, they brought us together because they did understand that. They made a group of terror victims that we got to meet every month. And it's much easier, to speak with people with, eye to eye, without any barriers in the middle. And the rest of them are their wives and their friends. This is my wife when she got birth in Hadassah. This is my kid Yair. Today they're 3 years old. From the day he got, birth, I couldn't catch him. He's too quick for me. He's named Yair, and he's named after the Avraham Yair Stern. He was the head of the underground force, the paramilitary of the Lehi, that before the state of Israel was founded. And Yair is a leader name. So I wanted my kid to be a leader of the Jewish people. So I called him by his name. This is the day after. We're sleeping together, enjoying the moment that will allow us to sleep and not wake us up. This is right after he got his birth was a big operation in Gaza Strip, and I had to go to the army. And I couldn't see him for almost 2-3 weeks. And this is the first time that I came home. And every time we go into my parents' house, there is the army base, and he looks to the right and he says, "Hey Dad, it's your army." And I have to explain that there is a long way for me to be head of the army, even though I really want to do it, but it's a long way. This is him with Carlos, our dog. Carlos is named after the famous terrorist because he's a real terrorist. He's barking all day and he's a real terrorist. And they have an amazing connection. The dog didn't allow his friends to come near him, and Yair didn't allow his friends to go near Carlos. You also want to be an army guy, so almost every Purim he used to dress up as an army. Unfortunately, he discovered Sammy, the fireman, and this year wanted to be fired Sammy. This is my small process of what I had, but for me Hadassah, above all, it's a vision, because when you saw Professor Pikarsky that took care of me, Hadassah sent him to Miami to study one particular muscle of the body. 10 years after that, I got wounded, so that means 20 years. And when I got wounded, there was the only doctor in Israel that could take care of me. And today he's making research about the surgery that he did. I was the first one to do it, and there is only other 4 patients around Israel, because it's a very, very unique and complicated surgery that not every patient could have it. And for me, as I said, Hadassah, it's a vision because they help me to see behind the right here, right now. The problems that I face each moment, to see, decade from here, and see myself. And in the end, if you really want to do something, you will achieve it. I wanted to share it with you, and thank you very much to allow me to be with you.
When we see the heroes like you who fight for our country, for our name, and we never imagine what's come in your mind so much time. So I would like to tell me what you think in all this time passed. Because you could be very angry, you could be very disappointed, you could be very proud. But what passed your mind all this time?
At the first few years, I really was mad, and I spent all my energy, to curse the terrorists that did it, to blame the country that did prevent it, and to blame God for all that happened to me. But I understood and I'd be taught in Hadassah that if I will spend all my energy, just to fight it, will not have the energy to keep going forward. And so I have to be very smart to pick my battles, because I couldn't, fight for every direction. And another thing is, because Hadassah is a teaching school, whatever I'm going through is going to help other people. Because, for example, I did the surgery that I was the first patient, and then they had the knowledge to do it for other 3 or 4 patients. So for me, it's a little bit comforting that every pain that I'm feeling, every bad emotion that I have, will help other people. And not only in Israel, but all over the world, because all the knowledge and experience of Hadassah is spreading all over the world, from Africa, to Europe, to Asia, literally all over the world. So for me, it became like to be the head of the column. Unfortunately, it's have to be a very painful, way, but the other people were behind me will be a little bit easier, and the next one after them will be much easier. And hopefully, in 10 years from now, it will be a very small procedure, because they always find new ways. At the beginning, they couldn't treat, they didn't know how to treat all my injuries, and a few years after, they found, new ways to help me, or better ways to do it. And for me, it became like a goal in life, to help, through that procedure that I have, to help other people. It's what we have to do.